Rim to river to rim, the aftermath. It got a bit ugly. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to my channel. For those of you who may be here for the first time, by way of a follow-up, about 10 days ago I completed the rim to rim South Kaibab, Colorado River, Right Angel Trail. I did it solo, and that was my third rim to rim hike. At 71, I did the north to south rim. At 72, I did the south to north rim. And at 74, just a couple days before my 74th birthday, a few days ago, I completed the third jewel of the Triple Crown and did the rim to rim hike. So, if you watched my previous video, and if you didn't, I'll leave a link to it at the end of this video. When I got off the hike, I had been hiking almost 14 hours. When I got off the hike, I was really doing pretty well. My legs were still moving fairly well, no real problems. When I finished the hike, immediately after I finished, I ate another banana. I drank another quart of Gatorade, and I walked around the plaza for about 20 minutes to cool down my legs. After I finished that, I got in the car, drove to a restaurant, had dinner, got up, walked out of the restaurant about 25 yards, and suddenly, without warning, both my right and my left hamstrings and my calf muscles just seized up on me. Again, it was without warning. I could not walk. It was as though my legs were paralyzed. And by the way, I was in a parking lot when it happened. Cars were having to drive by me, but I could not get my legs to move. And the pain on a scale of 1 to 10 was about a 15. It was pretty ferocious. So I stood there in the parking lot for probably about maybe 6 or 7 minutes, just enduring this cramping in both my calves and my hamstrings. And slowly I was able to actually slide my feet about 1.5 inches at a time, and I kind of slid my way out of the parking lot over to the curb and lifted up my left leg and put it on the top of the curb and just rocked back and forth for probably about 7 or 8 minutes, just trying to loosen up the muscles in my legs. And after probably about 8 minutes, I was able to get enough movement back into my legs that I could sort of waddle over to the car. Got in the car, drove back to the hotel. Once I got in the room, my wife helped me put on a bathing suit, went down to the hot tub for 40 minutes, just continuing to exercise my legs. They felt a little bit better, and went back up to the room, and about an hour later, I was fairly tired from the hike, and I turned in and went to sleep. About an hour after I went to sleep, again with no warning whatsoever, both my right and my left leg seized up again in the hamstring and the calf muscles. And again, the muscles would not accept any input from my brain. It was actually almost like a comedy sketch, because I was trying to slide my legs over to the side of the bed so that I could get my feet on the floor and stand up and maybe start to rock again, but I couldn't move my legs. I was just sort of wobbling my torso. I called my wife. She actually was sleeping through this. I called my wife. She got up, and she helped me get my legs back up on the bed. They were sort of hanging off perpendicular to the bed. And because I had gotten askew in the bed, I wound up with my head at the foot of the bed and my feet in the pillows. And again, stayed that way for 8 or 9 minutes. Just severe pain. Couldn't move them at all. And after about probably 9 minutes, the cramping eased up enough that I could slide my legs off the edge of the bed and stand up. And for another 10 minutes, all I did was just rock myself back and forth, rock myself back and forth. And slowly I got my legs to release the cramping. And I sat in a chair for another hour because that pain was so bad, it woke me up. After about an hour, I went back to sleep, slept for about maybe an hour and a half, and again, with no warning whatsoever, my left leg this time, not my right leg, just my left leg, the hamstring and the calf muscle, seized up a third time. And Because my right leg was still somewhat mobile, I was able to slide myself onto the floor and get up and start rocking back and forth, back and forth. And I was able to loosen up the leg in about 6 or 7 minutes. Again, sat in a chair for probably about 45 minutes, went back to bed, and that was the end of the cramping. Slept through the rest of the night. The next morning I woke up, and my legs, my hamstrings, and my calf muscles were so sore and so stiff, I could barely move them. The only way I could describe my motion was, if you can imagine a very stiff-legged penguin, that's what I looked like as I tried to maneuver, because we had to check out of the hotel that morning, as I tried to maneuver my body up and down hallways and over to elevators and out to the car. And I could only gather about maybe a 6 to 7 inch gait as I was walking. I mean, honestly, that visualization of a stiff-legged penguin is perfect for what was going on. And we had to drive to Vegas that day, but I actually drove the car myself. I was able to drive the car all the way to Vegas. We got to Vegas, put on the bathing suit again, went into the hot tub in Vegas for another 45 minutes, and it was ferocious. I mean, it wasn't as bad as that seizing problem, but my legs were amazingly stiff and amazingly sore. And then things took a really, really strange turn, because I went to bed about 10 o'clock that night. Imagine going to bed at 10 o'clock in Vegas, but I was still pretty tired. And I slept through the night. I woke up the next morning, and this would have been the second morning after the hike, got out of bed, and my hamstrings were absolutely fine. I have no explanation for that. Typically, when my legs are that sore, it takes me, generally about a week to get things rolling again, where I'm feeling that there's no pain and I can walk. But my hamstrings are absolutely fine. My calf muscles were not. They were still pretty sore. Honest to goodness, I don't know what to say about my calf muscles. I have hiked up and down these mountains in Utah. I have hiked up and down out of the Grand Canyon before. I have never had a problem with my calf muscles before. I have no idea what happened to them. But because I could freely move my hamstrings, I could move my legs back and forth and get a very nice gait, almost a normal gait. So that day, my hamstrings stayed very well. Went to bed again about 10 o'clock that night with very, very stiff, very, very sore calf muscles. And again, for reasons that I cannot explain, I woke up the next morning, my calf muscles were fine, and it was as though the whole difficulty with my legs had never happened. And this would have been the third morning after the hike. It was as though it never happened. And I walked around fine the rest of the day. Now, my legs were tired. Certainly they were tired from the hike, but that stiffness and the soreness, it was gone. And I have no explanation as to how I could go from that state of so much stiffness and so much pain to being completely restored in about 9 hours for my hamstrings, and then about 9 hours of sleep the next night for my calf muscles. I just don't know what that was about. And after that, my legs were fine for the rest of the trip. By the morning of the third day after the hike, my legs were absolutely fine. I walked without any problems whatsoever, and have been fine since. Interesting turn of events in terms of the aftermath. So, if I had it to do over again, what would I do differently in terms of the process at the end of the hike? As I said before, when I finished the hike, when I got back up to the South Rim, I did have another banana, and I had a Gatorade. The first thing I think I would have done was, instead of having a Gatorade, I would have had a drink that specializes in recovery, and I had the powder for that. I just didn't bring it with me. But the recovery drink has a lot more protein in it, and has branched chain amino acids, and it's designed to help you recover from real intense muscle workouts. I would have done that differently. I think the other thing I would have done differently is instead of just taking 20 minutes, I think I probably would have taken 40 minutes. Now that would have been a little bit tough to do because I was pretty tired when I got off that hike. But I think maybe if I gave myself 40 minutes to cool down instead of 20, maybe that would have offset the cramping. I don't know. I don't specialize in muscle physiology. I can't really explain why they cramped up so severely. I can tell you this much, it had nothing to do with hydration. You know, I've been hiking in the desert for years, I've been hiking in the mountains for years, so I know how to hydrate really well, and I did hydrate very, very well on the hike. Whatever happened, it had nothing to do with hydration. But really, those are probably the only two things I would have done differently. Now, as far as the hike is concerned, there is actually a couple of things I would have done. But before I go into a couple of things I want to change, I want to tell you that, in my opinion, I thought that the trail on the South Kaibab, I thought it was really sloppy in a lot of places. I had done that segment of the hike about 2 years ago, and I don't remember it being as sloppy as it was when I hiked it at the end of September. They did have a very heavy monsoon season down in northern Arizona. Maybe that helped to add some damage to the trail, but it was sloppy. And I actually slid about 5 times on the downhill. And then I almost took 2 really, really bad falls. And what saved me from going, honestly, head first into piles of rocks off the side of the trail or on the side of the trail, what saved me was my hiking sticks. So I really want to put in a major, major support statement. If you're going to do the rim-to-rim hike, seriously, I know especially if you're a younger hiker, the idea of hiking poles may seem like something that you don't want to do, but honest to God, it saved my bacon. I am absolutely convinced if I had taken either one of those falls on the South Kaibab, I would have had to have medical intervention to get off the trail. I couldn't have continued. One of the falls was so bad, it was on a steep section. I actually had to plant my left pole to keep from going over on a slide. A rock slipped out from underneath my foot. I actually had to run down about 20 yards down a very steep section because my momentum was taking me down that far. And if I had fallen, I would have literally gone off to my left into a head first into a pile of rocks. So big plug for hiking sticks. So anyway, my friends, that was the aftermath of the rim-to-rim hike. You very rarely see people do videos on the aftermath unless they got hurt on the trail. So I hope that this was helpful to you. I very, very much enjoyed the hike. At this point, I'm still holding to my position that was my last, at 74, that was my last extreme hike. And I enjoyed it very much, in spite of how brutal that hike was, and it was a very, very tough hike. I enjoyed it very, very much. I do want to say this about the South Kaibab. I've done it twice, and I've descended into the canyon on all 3 routes. There's no doubt in my mind that the South Kaibab is the worst way, the most stressful way on your legs to get down to the Colorado River. As I said in my previous video, my YouTube compatriot Todd M. calls the South Kaibab Trail the knee wrecker, and I have to say that it certainly was. So here's one other thing that I would have done differently on this hike. If you remember, when I did my south to north video, south rim to north rim video, I got down to the Colorado River and my legs felt like they were rubber. So when I was preparing for this rim to river to rim hike, I had stated that I was going to add quad extensions onto my quad lifts onto my training regime, and I did that, and I have to say they worked very, very well. I got down to the bottom of the Colorado River, and even though my left knee was a bit tweaked, my quads were in great shape, and my legs did not feel like rubber when I got down to the river. But in hindsight, given that really, really severe cramping that I had, I think what I would do if I would do it again is I would add a routine to strengthen my hamstring muscles, and I would have also added a routine to strengthen my calf muscles. I think that if I had added those two routines, they would have assisted me in maybe minimizing that cramping at the end of the hike. I don't know. Honest to goodness, I have no idea why I cramped up so badly. But I would definitely add those routines. It couldn't hurt. So my friends, I hope that this video was helpful to you if you're planning on a rim-to-rim hike. It sure was a great experience, as brutal as that hike was, and it was a tough, tough hike. I had a great time. I am sticking with my position at this point that I'm done with my extreme hiking. I'm going to start settling down a bit as far as hiking is concerned, but I had a great time on that hike. And honestly, if you're healthy enough to do it, if you have the time to train, and I would never, never, never take this hike without undergoing a very solid training regimen prior to taking the hike. But if you can do that, it is just an extraordinary experience. And again, if you're healthy enough to do it, I would certainly encourage you to do it. Anyway, I'll bring this video to a close. It was a lot longer than I thought it would be, but again, I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you on the trail.